Paper 6, Model Solutions. Question 1. So we have three different people, Jay, Chiaria, and Martha. If we write their names, Jay, Chiaria, and Martha, and we need to assign some algebra to this. Now I like to use the letter X. Chiaria is 7 years older than J. J is currently undefined, so let's call J X. Chiaria is 7 years older than J, so not 7x, but J's age plus 7 years. So that's x plus 7. Martha is twice as old as Chiaria, so double this one, and not 2x plus 7, but 2x plus 14. The sum of their ages is 77, so they all should add up to make 77. Okay? We can form an equation here. If you add them together, you end up with 4x plus 21 equals 77. Subtract 21 from both sides, and you end up with 4x equals 56. Then divide both sides by 4, and then x is equal to 14. Okay. Now I know how old J is. J is 14. Chiaria must be 7 years older, so she's 21. Martha, double Chiaria's age, so Martha is 42. And we can write it on the answer line. It doesn't tell us to simplify it, so 14 to 21, 32. Next one. So, probability. We can set it out. So the last one actually. So how we can set it out. We have a probability table. So there are twice as many blue as yellow. So we don't know how many yellow there are, so for yellow x, and blue will be 2x. There are 4 times as many green as blue. So if you times blue by 4, you end up with 8x. And we know that the probability table should total up to 1. If we add these together, 11x is equal to 1, and that means x is equal to 1 to 7. So what the probability of yellow is x, so it's an 11. If you also had to work out blue would be 2 11s, and green would be. Next question. So this is a very familiar question, but it's in disguise. So if we set it out like this, 3 teas plus 2 coffees with a total cost of £7.80. 5 teas plus 4 coffees with a total cost of £14.20. And you can see quite clearly it looks like simultaneous equations. What I'm going to do is I'm going to times the top equation by 2, get the same number of c's. So I'll times it all by 2, including the number at the end. You end up with 6t plus 4c equals 15 and 60. And then this second one, I'll just copy that right underneath. 5t plus 4c equals 14 and 20. Now remember, you don't need to make coffees the same, C's the same. You could make, if you want to, you can make the teas the same. I just chose to make the C's the same. It just seems a bit easy. So if the signs are the same, then you subtract. And if the signs are different, and then you add. Now, I'm going to focus on the signs of the coffees because I've just made the coffees the same number. So if you made the teas the same number, you would look at the signs in front of the teas. Anyway, signs are the same, so I'm going to subtract. And when you subtract, you end up with t equals £1.40. Okay? It'll come up on the calculator 1.4, but in money that's clearly £1.40. Then what you do is you substitute this into one of the original equations. So we choose the top one. We have 3 times £1, £1.40, plus 2 coffees is equal to £7.80. So 3 times £1.40 is £4.20. £4.20 plus 2 coffees is equal to £7.80. So just do a little bit of rearranging now. So it's £7.80 minus £4.20. That will work out 2 coffees. So £7.80 minus £4.20. So £3.60 for 2 coffees. If you divide that by 2, you get £1.80 for a single coffee. Next question. There are 30 apples in a box. Okay. In the box. 30 apples inside it. The mean weight of these 30 apples is 120 grams. That's the average weight per apple. Okay. Mean weight. Okay. Average weight, mean weight, 20 grams per apple. In a bag, there are 10 apples. And the average weight or mean weight of these 10 apples is 95 grams. So 95 grams per apple in this bag. Work out the mean weight of the 40 apples combined. Well, what I need to do, if I'm going to work out the mean weight of all 40 apples, well, I will definitely divide by 40. It'll be 40 apples altogether. But if you think about the definition of mean, it's the numbers added together divided by how many numbers there are. So when we're talking about the apples, it's the total weight of all of the apples divided by how many apples there are altogether. And I know there's 40 altogether, but I don't know the total weight of all the apples. But I have 30 apples that weigh roughly 120 grams each. So 30 lots of 120. And you have 10 apples that weigh 95 grams each. So roughly, so 10 plus 10 times 95. Type this into the calculator. We have 30 times 120 plus 10 times 95 over 40 apples altogether, and that gives us an average weight of 113.75. Remember, you must not round the number. Next question. Okay, this is about typing it into the calculator. So the way that you do this is you press the square root button first, and then the fraction. Okay, you just take a look at what happens if you do it the other way around. Press the fraction first, then the square root. The square root only goes in the numerator. So it's square root, then fraction. So sine 25, close brackets, plus sine 40, close brackets, over cos 25, close bracket, minus cos 40, close bracket. Okay. Copy down the display, 2.756. The entire display. Right chance, 2 decimal places. 2 decimal places means 2 numbers after the decimal point. So either it's going to be 2.75 or 2.76. 6 after this dotted line is 2.76. So we have a 12-sided polygon here. Work out the size of angle STR. There's quite a few ways of dealing with this question. Here's one way. If you were to continue one side of the shape, so if we continue the line ST, this line here, this angle here is known as the exterior angle, and there's a formula for exterior angle. The formula is exterior angle equals 360 divided by the number of sides shape. So in this case, it's 360 divided by 12. 360 divided by 12 is 30. This angle is 30. What we can tell is because the exterior and the interior, which is right next to it, lie on a straight line. If the exterior is 30, that means the interior must be 150. Both of these sides of the triangle are the same length, because it's a regular 12-sided polygon. So it's an isosceles triangle. What I need to do is work out the base angles. I can do that by subtracting 150 from 180 and dividing it by 2. So 180 minus 150 divided by 2, because the base angles are equal. So that gives us 30 over 2, which is 15. So the answer to the question is 15. Right. And the next thing to do is to consider a slightly different method, because you don't have to use the formula for exterior angle. What you may wish to do is use the formula for the sum of the interior angles. So in a three-sided shape, there's 180. In a four-sided, there's 360, etc. In an n-sided shape, take away 2 from the number of sides, multiply it by 180. So if it's a 12-sided shape, you do 12 take away 2, which is 10 times 180. And that's 10 times 180, that's 1,800. So the total angles inside the shape add up to make 1,800. You then do 1,800 divided by how many sides there are, and this will give you one of the interior angles. And then you carry on in the same way. So I would argue that it's easy to work out the exterior angle, and then work out the interior based on that. But it's up to you. The answer is 15. Okay, next question. So this is a bit like compound interest. You have your initial value. You multiply it by the multiplier. And it's raised to the power of the number of years. So we have the initial value of the company, which is £50,000, and we times it by the multiplier. Now there is a formula for the multiplier. I'll write that at the top here. It's 1 plus x over 100, where x is the interest rate. So it's 1 plus 2 is 2% over 100 to the power of the number of years. Now, it's from 2009 up to 2017, which if you count is 8 years. Okay, type this into the calculator. You can type it in as it is, or you can work out the multiplier, the number in the bracket, which happens to be 1.02, and raise it to the power of 8. Okay? You can copy down the display, 58,502, etc. And to give your answer to the nearest £100, that's this column. So is it closer to 58,500 or 58,600? 58,600. So the next one, it gives you the value of the company in 2009, and then 6 years later. Now, this next sentence is quite important. This is equivalent to an increase of X% each year. So what this means is it's like a compound interest question. You mustn't think about this question as the amount that it's increased by each year is the same amount each year, because it's not. It's a different amount each year, and each year gets slightly more than the previous year. So what that means is it's a compound interest question. So we use the compound interest formula. So you have your initial value, 250,000. You multiply it by the interest rate, the multiplier, which is 1 plus x over 100, to the power of the number of years, which in this case is 6. And this will give us the value after 6 years, which is 325,000. So it's just a bit of rearrangement here. If we rearrange it and divide the right-hand side by 250,000, we end up with something like this. So remember your objective, you're trying to work out what x is. Okay. Now, if you type the right hand side into the calculator, this turns out to be 1.3. This fraction, if you type it in, it's 1.3. Now, the problem is, x is trapped inside this bracket. The bracket is raised to the power of 6. Now, the opposite of raising to the power of 6 is to take the 6th root. Now, there is a button on the calculator that allows you to do this. Okay. So I want to get rid of this power 6, take the 6th root of 1.3. Okay. If it was x squared equals something, on the other side you would square root. So it's not a square, it's power 6. The opposite is, the inverse is the 6th root. Now the button is here. You have to press shift. This button, you can type in whatever root you like. You want the 6th root of 1.3, which is this. Okay, so we'll copy it. It's 1.0446. Okay. That's equal to 1 plus x over 100. Now, we're trying to work out what x is. You've got to do this in the right order. So if you subtract 1 from both sides, so take 1 from both sides, you end up with 0.044697. Finally, we want x. So times the right hand side by 100, we end up with 4.46975. We want the answer to two significant figures. The two significant figures, that's 2 from the beginning, unless there are any leading zeros. The 6 will make the 4 round up, so the final answer is 4.5. Next question. So, the point C is due south of A. So, the first thing I note is where C is going to lie. So, it's going to be somewhere on this line, just due south of A. And what else do we know? The bearing of C from B is 235 degrees. The bearing of C from B. Now, what you need to do is take your protractor and place it on the north line of B, because bearings are always measured in a clockwise direction like this. Okay. Now, so I have to start here at the north line. You start at the north line and you go in a clockwise direction, but it's 235 degrees. So what you need to bear in mind is that the protractor only goes up to 180. So I know that due south of B is 180 degrees. So I just need to figure out what I need to add on from 180 up to 235. So 235, take 180. This is the extra angle I need to add on. 5, 23, take away 18. 5. So it's 55. So I just need to add on another 55 degrees after the 180. So just line that up nicely. Okay, let's place a dot at 55 degrees. Just about there. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is draw a line that extends from B in line with this dot, but quite far. And as you can see, it's due south of A, and it lies on that line, so it must be here. See? The bearing of a point D from B. So from B is the important one, 168. Now I'm just going to draw a little sketch of this. This is from B, so just put a dot here with a B. North line, yeah, and it's on a bearing of 168. So this is 90, and this is 180, and 168 is almost 180, so it's going to be quite close to that one. So let's just say it's here somewhere. So this bearing here is 168. D is somewhere on this black line. Right, and the question is asking to work out the bearing of B from D. So let's draw a north line at D, because we have to start from D, and we always start from the north line. So we start at the north line, and what we do is we go in a clockwise direction to the letter we're interested in. So we start at D, we go in a clockwise direction all the way around to B. This is the angle that it's asking us to work out. Now, inside this north line, we have kind of U shape within these north lines. Now, these north lines are obviously parallel because they're both north direction. If one of the angles is 168, the other angle will be 12 degrees, and that's because these two angles inside a U shape or a C shape like this are co-interior. They add up to make 180. So both of these together add up to 180. So this little angle here, this is 12. And that means the one on the outside, the one I'm interested in, will be 360. Take away 12, so 348. The next question, 6.3 has been rounded to one decimal place. If it's been rounded to one decimal place, we're interested in the 10th column. Okay, and the 10th column is worth 0.1. What you do is, if you're trying to work out the lower and upper bounds, you look at the value of the column. Value of the column is a tenth, or 0.1. You then half the value of the column. Do this in a calculator if you like. You get 0.05. This is what you add and subtract to 6.3. You add and subtract 0.05 to get the lower and upper bound. We're only interested in the lower bound. So it will be 6.3 minus 0.05, which is 6.25. Next question is completing the square. So it's x plus a is half of the coefficient of x. So half of 6 is 3, then squared. Okay, just copy it from there. So a is half of the coefficient of x. You then subtract the number in the bracket squared, so subtract 3 squared. If there's a number at the end, like a -7, you then copy that. And the bit in red, you can combine that. Okay, type that in the calculator, or you can work it out in your head. That's -9 minus 7 minus 16. This is the final answer to the question. Now, we're going to draw a sketch of the graph. The turning point is the number in the bracket with the opposite sign, and the number on the outside with the same sign. This is the turning point. The turning point is not where the graph crosses the x-axis, but it's the vertex of the curve. Because it's an x-squared graph, it is a bowl-shaped graph. And what it means is the bottom of the bowl, the vertex, will be at this coordinate. So if we draw a sketch, it's only a sketch. Mark -3, -16, so that's going to be down here somewhere. Yep. And also we can mark where it crosses the y-axis. Now any curve crosses the y-axis when the x-coordinate is equal to 0. So if you let x equal 0, 0 squared, 6 times 0, 0 plus 0 minus 7. It's going to cross the y-axis at -7, which is like this. At this point here, -3, -16. And it's going to cross the y-axis at -7. Mark the axes as y and x. Do a sketch. Try to make it symmetrical, and so that it has its vertex right there. That's enough. Now, if you wanted to work out some other information, like where it crosses the x-axis, well, this can be done using the quadratic formula. That's what the quadratic formula works out, where the graph crosses the x-axis. It's not these 2 points. This is the turning point, the vertex of the curve. Okay, next question, solving a quadratic equation. This is the quadratic formula. So it's a equals 5, b equals 8, c equals -23. As long as it equals 0, which it does, you then substitute into the formula x equals -b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. working, we can type this into the calculator now. So if we use the silver calculator, it's mode 5, option 3. You have this calculator, it's option A, polynomial, degree 2. So it's A is 5, B is 8, C is negative 23. Write down the solutions, x equals 1.489. Copy down the majority of the display. And then the other one, what you do is you press equals, press S to D, copy that down as well, minus 3.08910, etc. Round them to 3 significant figures, so on the answer line it's 1.49 or minus 3.09. The next one is making subject of the formula. So this is the first. So we're going to make E the subject, and E appears twice. The problem is it's trapped inside a square root, so we need to do the inverse procedure of square rooting, which is to square. If we square the left-hand side, k squared. If you square the right-hand side, it eliminates the square root, so you end up with something like this. Now, I don't like the fraction, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 3e. Now, as you know, when you have letters multiplied together, you write them next to each other. You don't need to write a times in between. And the normal convention is to write the number first. But even though I'm going to multiply k squared by 3e, it's not a good idea to write k squared times 3e. This causes confusion. It's nicer mathematically to write it like this. Now we're trying to make E the subject, so we need to gather all the E's into one side. So I'll gather them on the left-hand side. This. Now, the letter we're interested in is repeated. So what we need to do now is to factorize that letter out. So E brackets 3k squared minus 2 is equal to 5m. E is on its own now, almost. If I divide by that bracket, and then E will be on its own, which is the objective of the question. Because it's E times that bracket, so it will become divided on the other side. 4 marks. Next question. So we have 2 different bags. Probability that he takes tiles of the same colour. So we can have red from the first bag and red from the second bag. Red from the first bag is 7/10. Red from the second bag is 5/8. Now I'm not going to draw a tree diagram here, but this is bag B follows bag A, so we're moving along the branches of a tree diagram. We're following the red branch, and when we do that, we times the probabilities together. Okay, you can either type this in the calculator, or you can just type it across like I am. Now you can also get white. So white is the 3/10 multiplied by 3/8. It's 3 out of 10 in the first bag and 3 out of 8 in the second bag. Multiply these together and you end up with 9/80. The 2 answers combined, added together, will give you the final answer, because there's 2 ways that you can get tiles of the same colour, either red or white. And all means add maths. So add them together, you end up with 44/80, or if you cancel it, 11/20. Now all 18 tiles are put in the box. If all 18 tiles are put in the box together, then that means we now know the probability of red has to be the 7 red plus 5 red. So there's now 12 red out of 18. And that means white must be 3 add 3, which is 6 out of 18. Now, he does not replace the tile, so he's going to take 2 tiles out of this combined box, and we're working out the probability that they're both red. So it's red followed by red. So you have 12 over 18. Next time, there won't be 12 red anymore. There will be only 11 remaining and only 17 in the box. Type this into the calculator, you end up with 22 over 51. The next question, when you see this word, similar, and you see volumes and areas, you're thinking of scale factor squared, scale factor cubed. Now it talks about volume here, so let's write this down. We have A to B, and it's in the ratio 27 to 8. Now, if we just write down a little note inside here, we have length, area, volume, scale factor squared, scale factor cubed. Volume is associated with scale factor cubed, but the question involves scale factor squared, because it's to do with area. So we really want to get to this one. So before I start looking at the rest of the numbers, I need to get to scale factor squared. I can do that by first of all cube rooting. It's quite hard to get from scale factor cube to scale factor squared. So you cube root it, and you cube root 27, that's 3. Cube root 8, and that's 2. And then to get from scale factor to scale factor squared, you can square these numbers. So 3 squared is 9. 2 squared is 4. Now it tells me that the surface area of cone A is 297. So I'm going to write 297 just underneath this one. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to concentrate on this part. Okay. Figure out how these numbers are related. So I'm going to type into the calculator. I want to figure out how I get from 9 to 297 by multiplication. And I can do that by typing in 297 divided by 9. And if you type that into the calculator, you end up with 33. So 297 divided by 9 is 33. I can do the same on this side. I can times 4 by 33. That will work out the number here, which is 132, which is the answer to the question. Show. Next one. Y is directly proportional to the cube root of x. So I start off with y equals k times the cube root of x. All I need to do now is work out the value of k. And I can do that by substituting into this formula. Y is equal to 1 and 1/6, which is, it's a little bit difficult to type into the calculator like this, unless you use the shift fraction button. So shift fraction is 1 and 1 over 6. Yep, so you press shift and the fraction button. So 3 boxes. It's easier to use 7 over 6. If I type that in, 7 over 6 equals k multiplied by the cube root of 8. I need to work out what k is now. So if I do something like this, 7 over 6 equals k multiplied by 2. And if I divide 7 over 6 by 2, type that in the calculator, that will work out k. 7 over 6 divided by 2 is 7/12. So k is 7/12. That means the new equation with my value of k substituted is y equals 7/12 cube root of x. Sometimes if it asks me for a formula, that's where I end. But it says find the value of y when x is 64. Now we substitute 64 as x. So it's 7/12 times the cube root of 64. When you type it into the calculator, you get the answer 7/3. You must not round this. Just keep it as 7/3. Next question. So, we're at the end of the paper almost, and there are triangles here, non-right angles. So it's going to be either use of the sine rule or cosine rule, or indeed the formula for the area of a triangle, which is half AB sine C. And you use this formula when there are angles involved. Now it tells us the area of ADC is 56 meters squared. if you understand the formula for the area of a triangle, A and B are the two sides that sandwich the angle. Now, if you look at triangle ADC, you can see that 11 and the side I've labelled X both sandwich the angle. So A and B are 11 and X. So if I substitute them into this formula, we have a half times 11 times X multiplied by sine of the angle that's sandwiched between, which is 105. That's equal to the area of the triangle, which is 56. Now, I want to know what side X is, because that's the only missing bit of information I can work out from that line of working. So if I rearrange this, they're all times together, you see. And the opposite of multiplication is division. So without using the calculator yet, I can just take all of this to the right-hand side. As follows: half times 11 times sine 105. Okay, and if you can type this into the calculator, and indeed you should try it into this, and you will end up with X is equal to 10.54099.384. So, time to edit the diagram. We label this side as 10.5. Of course, I'm not going to use 10.5. I'm going to use the entire calculated display, but just save a bit of work. Right. Now, what else can I work out? Well, I have two triangles that are backed onto each other, and most often when you have two triangles backed onto each other, you can work out the common side, which is AC. I can work out AC using bottom triangle A to C. And once I've worked out AC, I can then use AC in the top triangle to work out the answer to the question. So I'm now going to try and work out the side AC. So if we take a look at this triangle ADC, I have, remember I'm trying to work out this side, so let's call this Y because I've called the previous side X. So we have 1, 2, 3 sides involved and one angle. So we have the sine rule, and we have the cosine rule. The cosine rule is used when we have 3 sides and one angle involved, and the sine rule is 2 sides and 2 angles involved. So I'm going to use the cosine rule. The cosine rule we copy down from the formula sheet, which is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos capital A. And B and C are the sides that sandwich the angle cosine. Just like A and B are the sides that sandwich the angle in the formula for the area of the triangle. So we have something like this. We have A squared, let's label the triangle. So we have 2 sides either side of the angle, sandwich the angle B and C. That means this one is A. So for this question, I have y squared equals 11 squared plus 10.5 squared, but I'm going to use the full display, minus 2 times 11 times 10.5 times cos of 105. It's very important you label this y squared, because it's not y, it's y squared. If you want y, you have to square root of this. So you write all of this in one very big square root. Now, let's have a look. Let's type in that decimal from before. 10.54099.384. Okay. What I'm going to do is we're now going to use the AND button. So I've got to work it out directly. So I'm going to type in square root 11 squared plus AND squared. My AND is 10.5, etc. Minus 2 times 11 times AND, which is 10.5, times cos 105, close brackets. And this is the final answer for y. Now, if you haven't square rooted it, you'll have a very a much bigger answer than this. And that won't make sense. So y is 70.09190, etc. Okay, copy down the full display. So I've just worked out this side here. That's 17.097. Now the question wants me to work out AB, which is this side here. Okay. So you can see I have two sides and two angles involved. So I'm now going to use the sine rule. Okay? Sine rule, A over sine A equals B over sine B equals C over sine C. So we can see that 17.09 matches with 118, angle 118, they're opposite. And also the side AB, which I've labelled X, matches to the angle 48. So with the sine rule, what you do is you pick a side. If you're trying to work out sides. So you pick a side, which we call AB, side AB, and we write sine of the angle which is opposite the denominator. And then you set that equal to another side. So the only other side we have in that triangle is 17.0 over sine of the angle opposite to that side, which is 118. We then do a bit of rearranging. Okay. AB is divided by sine 48. So the opposite of divide is 2 times. So we times this fraction by sine 48, and this will give us the final answer to this question. So, and because my 17.9 is the answer, sine 118, and then multiplied by sine 48, close brackets, and that gives us the final answer, which we copy down to the entire display, 14.38533632, etc. Okay, and then it says round it to one decimal place, so it's 14.4. 14.4 is the final answer to the question. Okay, so with this question, it's very important to read this information at the top. That tells you that each of these numbers represent numbers of elements. And it's in bold, and you have to heed this information, as the number 6 doesn't mean that it's one item. It means there's 6 items or 6 elements, but represented with the number 6. So instead of writing all 6 in the diagram, they write the number 6 to mean that there's 6 elements. In part A, it asks for the number in A union B complement. The number is how many, that's what the N stands for. A union B complement. Well, A union B is everything in A or B, as follows. This is A union B. A union B. What we're looking for is the complement of that, everything outside of that. If you look outside of the green part, you can see we have an 8 and a 4. So there are 8 elements and another 4 elements, which gives us 12 elements, and that's the answer to the question. The next part, the number in A union C complement and B. So let's take a look. A union C complement. So first of all, let's have a look at A union C. This is A union C. And the complement of that is outside of the green area. So outside of the green area, we have a 7 and a 4. So it has to also be in B. So out of the 7 and the 4, which one's in B also is the 7. So the answer is just 7. And the last one, to shade the region A union B and C. A union B and C. So let's take a look at A union B. So A union B is everything A or everything in B. Okay, that's A union B, and it's in C. So which of these numbers are also in C, in the green bit, but also in C? And that's this bit here. Okay, it's within the C circle and it's in the green area. So in the exam, the bit that I've cross-hatched, this is the bit that you shade. It's this area here. It's in A union B and it's in C. So not the green bit, it's just this bit here is the answer to the question. Okay, next question. So equations of lines, straight lines, perpendicular, etc. ABCD is a rectangle. That means we have a right angle here, and here, here, and over here. And what that means is, this question is to do with perpendicular lines and perpendicular gradients. So, line L has equation x plus 2y equals 12. AE equals EB. So this distance from A to E is equal to this distance here. Find an equation for line M. Okay, well, first of all, I know that line M and line L are perpendicular. So if I work out the gradient of line L, I can easily work out the gradient of line M. And how do you work out the gradient of a line? Well, if you're given the equation of the line, you can rearrange it into the form y equals mx plus c. Okay? This is not y equals mx plus c at the moment. It's now 2y, but I can divide everything by 2. So if I divide everything by 2, each term by 2, I end up with minus half of x plus 6. Okay, I've divided every term by 2 there. And now I know the gradient is negative a half. The way that you work out the perpendicular gradient is you do minus 1 divided by the first gradient. So if I type in minus 1 divided by minus a half in the calculator, it will give me the answer positive 2. So the gradient of line M is 2. Now this makes sense, you see, because if you look at line M, it is positive. It has a positive gradient, and we've just worked out the gradient is 2. So this looks good to me. So y equals 2x plus c. Now the issue we have is that we don't know any coordinates on line M, because that's what you need in order to work out c. You need a coordinate that lies on the line, so then you can substitute it to work out c. So you're a bit stuck, but you have to think outside the box with this question. Line L, I can work out where it crosses the x-axis. It crosses the x-axis at B. Now, I know from looking at the equation of the line in the form y equals mx plus c, that it crosses the y-axis at the point 6, because this c is 6. So I know this point here is 6. And it's very important that they tell me that these two parts are equal. And that's because this little triangle here, or this step, is exactly the same as this triangle here. It's the same step, you see. And now I've worked out that this has a height of 6 from the intersection point of the y-axis. I can also work out the base of this triangle by working out where this line L crosses the x-axis. And any line crosses the x-axis when the y-coordinate is 0. Now just think about this for a moment. You start at this point here, which is the origin, 0, 0, and you move across to B. How far do you move across? Well, we don't know. But we definitely know how far we move up or down. We move up / down 0. We're not moving up or down, we're only moving across, which means y is 0. So in the equation of the line, whichever version you want, it doesn't matter whichever version you like, you substitute y is 0. So if I use the first one, x plus 2 times 0 is equal to 12. Oh, this is handy, because 2 times 0 is 0, so that means x is equal to 12. So that's very handy indeed. Now I know it will cross the x-axis at 12, and I know the step of this triangle is 6 up and 12 across. So this triangle is exactly the same here because these two lines are equal. So this also has a base of 12 and also has a height of 6. Now we've got to try and work out the coordinates of A based on this step. The coordinates of E are 0, 12, Oh no, sorry, I beg your pardon. It's 0, 6. My fault. Okay, it's 0, 6. Oops, computer's jumped. Yeah, let's just change that. Okay, 0, 6. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start at E, which has coordinates 0, 6. I'm going to go 12 to the left and then 6 up. If I go 12 to the left, 0 becomes negative 12. If I go 6 up from 6, that takes me to 18. So now I know the coordinates of A. A lies on line M. I need this point on line M. I can't use any other point because I don't know any other points that are on the line. I don't know what D is, so I've worked out what A is because it's slightly more straightforward. Anyway, let's substitute this in here to work out C. Remember, coordinates are written x, y. So we have 18 equals 2 times negative 12 plus C. 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. Add 24 to both sides and you get 42. So 42 is C. So the answer to the question, final answer, is y equals 2x plus 42. The last question on the paper is to do with inequalities. The area of the rectangle is greater than the area of the triangle. So the formula for the area of a rectangle is length times width. So 3x minus 2 multiplied by x minus 1 is greater than the area of the triangle, which is base times height divided by 2. Right, let's expand these brackets. So 3x squared minus 3x minus 2x. So minus 3x minus 2x makes minus 5x. And then minus 2 times minus 1 is positive 2. Now, on the top here, you have a 2, and on the bottom you have a 2. That 2 cancels, and it leaves you with x times x, which is x squared. This looks like a quadratic, but all quadratics should be equal to 0, or in this case greater than 0. So what we'll do is we'll take x squared from both sides, where it will become negative on the left, 0 on the right, so we end up with 2x squared minus 5x plus 2. So we've now entered a topic called quadratic inequalities. The way we do this is we work out the roots. Now you can work out the roots using either the quadratic formula, which is x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, or you can factorize it. It doesn't always factorize, but this one does. The way to factorize it is to draw two sets of brackets like this. We write 2x at the beginning of both. And we want two numbers that in the brackets that times to make 4 from 2 times 2. But they add to make the middle number, which is negative 5. So they times to make 4, but they add to make negative 5. Numbers that times to make 4 but add to make negative 5 are negative 4 and negative 1. Then we cancel the brackets down if possible. The first bracket divides by 2. Stays as it is. Okay. Now, it's important not to worry too much about the inequality here. What I need to do is to work out the roots. So we set x minus 2 equals 0, in which case x equals 2, and 2x minus 1 equals 0. So 2x equals 1, and x equals a half. find it easier to use the quadratic formula, that's up to you. What we need to do now is have a look at the possible values of x. So we draw a little sketch, we mark the roots on the sketch. One of the roots is a half, the other root is 2. It's a quadratic graph, bowl-shaped parabola. We draw a bowl-shaped parabola like this. Oops. And we're interested in when the graph is above the x-axis. Greater than 0 means when is it above the x-axis. So it's above the x-axis, this section here, then it dips below, and in this section over here. Now we end up with two answers. X is less than a half. All the numbers to the left of a half are smaller than a half, so x is less than half. Or, on the right hand side, x is greater than 2. Now, this is the answer to the question. However, we just need to think about this for a moment, because if I say that x is allowed to be less than a half, so I'm saying x can be, say, it can be a quarter, 0.25. But is this allowed in the question? Well, take a look. If you look at this side of the rectangle, if x is 0.25, or a quarter, then this side would be a quarter minus 1, which is minus 3/4. And it's impossible to have a negative length. So it's not allowed to be less than a half, because this side would fail. So actually, the only answer to the question is this one. That makes sense. So the final answer to the question is x is greater than 2. So for this paper, grade boundaries. For a grade 9, you need approximately 75%. Grade 8, about 62%. Grade 7 is about 50%. Grade 6 is about 38%. Grade 5 is about 25%. And grade